get going and introduce myself fully, I want to ask you a couple of simple questions. What story are you telling yourself around stress and anxiety? What words do you use? Is stress something you are actively managing, or do you let it do what it does and just get involved when you feel like you're about to fall off the edge of a cliff? Is well-being something that's already an issue and on your radar, or what is the story you're telling yourself around stress and around well-being? Hello, my name is Suzanne Henwood and I live in New Zealand. Together with my business partner, Sarah Carruthers, we run The Healthy Workplace, an organisation designed to help workplaces create environments where everyone can thrive at work. My background's in healthcare. I began my professional life as a diagnostic radiographer, and I moved into education to make more of a difference. My academic career culminated in a decade as an associate professor in health and social sciences in New Zealand. Along the way, I did a PhD looking at professional development, what makes it effective, what's your role as the individual, and I started to explore evidence-based and neurologically based tools for working with physiology and neurology to give people back control over their thoughts, their decision-making, their mind, their body, and control over stress and well-being, or at least our response to it. A large part of my work these days is around stress and anxiety, and if ever there was a time when we needed to know how to handle stress, anxiety, uncertainty, change, having to be agile and flexible in each moment, surely it's now. So today I just want to get inside your thoughts and your mind around the concept of well-being. I want to challenge you a bit, push you, get you to rethink your own plans in this area, if you're open to it. For many years, we've had health and safety policies and programs, but we focused on safety, and the health kind of remained a very undervalued poor relative. Now we have health, safety, and well-being has become the new black sheep of the family that no one really knows what to do with. It's like a new tick box, something we think we ought to be seen to be doing, but we're not quite sure what. Maybe you have a bowl of fruit on the reception desk, or an inspiring quote in the boardroom, maybe even access to a gym membership. I don't mean to be facetious, but today I want to challenge you and ask, are you really taking health and well-being seriously for yourself, for your staff, and for your team? Or are you at best paying lip service to it? I only have 20 minutes or so, and I wondered how I could get my message across to you in a way that you'll remember, and preferably in a way that sends you out of here to make some changes in your own life. Being a healthcare professional in the 80s and 90s and spending most of my clinical life in a trauma unit, I liked nothing better than a resus room case where I had no idea what I was going to find, and I had to act fast, think on my feet, be flexible, and work around lots of other people. Anyone else feel that sounds like their place of work this year? It was challenging. It took lots of energy. It was fast moving, and I loved it. And I knew I was a vital part of the team. I mattered. What is it in your job that gives you that buzz, that sense of satisfaction, meaning, purpose, that makes you want to jump out of bed and go to work each day because that is also a core part of your well-being? And how do you keep that energy and motivation up over time? How do you handle the aftermath of the resus room and get back up to care for the next patient, the next client, the next customer, the next staff member, when the reality is you're tired yourself? So I thought today we'd stick with the analogy of cars, have a bit of fun with it. What you saw on the last slide was when something goes horribly wrong. The car's already crashed, the person's been through resus, and now there's a mess to clear up. And we'll all have faced some form of that in our work lives. And we know that if staff are not well and healthy, the safety issues escalate. But handling incidents once they've happened is another talk. It's not what I'm doing today. Today I want to talk about the everyday, our reality of work, and how we keep going in a tough year like we've had this year. Let's go back in time. The reality is cars that may go on to crash, they don't just appear, they're created, they're made and manufactured on a production line. Now, of course, there's a whole story behind and before this picture, the design, the conception. I'm talking of an idea, obviously, it's not that kind of talk. But we know that the factory needs to be built well and quality assured. Systems need to be in place and staff well trained. If we relate that to humans, starting with a pregnant mum, she needs to keep her body healthy to allow the baby to develop well. Our nervous system actually begins to develop before we're born. So part of how we are in the world today, whether we feel safe or whether we do life on high alert, is in place before we even take our first breath. For now, let's assume the factory is an excellent one. It's clean, it's maintained, and it's safe. And a car comes off the production line and is bought by a careful owner. First of all, it'll need a home base. In fact, a human's basic needs are food, safety, and shelter, and more recently, connection to others has been added to that list as a core safety need. Without that, we'll not survive, we'll not grow, and we'll not thrive. And the same is true in the workplace. We need safe, supportive, nurturing workplaces and homes to go home to at the end of our shift, and we need to feel like we're safe, that we belong in both. Well-being is about how we feel, not about whether policies are in place. Once you have a car, there are some basic maintenance and housekeeping to go through. Do you remember washing your car a lot when you first got it? Maybe you still do. And certainly as a baby, a young child, one of our roles is to keep that baby clean. Over time, you'll hopefully check the tire pressure. It determines the safety of the car as you drive and also fuel economy, much like checking your blood pressure. To be a safe driver and avoid accidents, you need additional skills to handle difficult conditions, just like a worker does in a difficult work environment, whether it's poor leadership, under-resourcing, bullying, or you fill in the gaps. How we handle ourselves and keep ourselves safe has to change in challenging environments. We need to be agile and flexible and not assume that what worked last time will work the same this time round. And we need to be resilient if we want to keep going. Now, cars were not designed to sit in a garage, stay in the dark, and never use that beautiful engine, and nor were we. Exercise and movement is essential, or we seize up. Now, if we care for our car and we want it to last a long time, we take it for regular services. We check it out. We don't wait for it to break down. Likewise with our health, there are many regular checks we're advised to do. Prostate, bowel, cervical screening, mammography, dental checks. The list is long and on the whole, optional. But if we care about the vehicle we live in, we will take that seriously. Do you take time out and schedule in those checks to keep you on the road and in the workplace? And if not, what would have to happen as a warning sign for you so that you did prioritize that quality assurance for your own health and well-being? Sometimes the checks will throw up a problem and we may need to take some action. Maybe change the oil, put in new spark plugs, change the tires. We do something to rectify problems early to avoid accidents. It's true in humans, right? Maybe it's weight loss or taking statins for high cholesterol levels. Maybe it's learning skills around relaxation to reduce blood pressure, or a replacement hip or knee or heart valve. What might need some maintenance for you? And when did you last go for a checkup to sort that out? Now, despite our best efforts, sometimes the car breaks down, and that can happen even if we service it and even if we keep it well maintained. But it's far more likely to break down if we've done nothing to it, or even worse, we've ignored that rattle or squeak because we're too busy, or we'll do it next week or next month. What do we do when a car overheats? Well, we let it rest, we cool it down. And we're no different. We wouldn't dream of jumping back in the driver's seat and just keep pushing it, would we? If we did that, we know that problems will escalate. So why do we do it with our bodies? And if we do break down, beyond just overheating, we'll be forced to go for repair. We'll hope there'll be somebody there to pick up the pieces and take us in for repair. Sometimes we just can't carry on. Our body says enough is enough. Almost exactly 1 year ago, despite me knowing all of this, I ignored some warning signs and ended up with a stroke and a heart condition. It forced me to stop. It also meant I had a long rehabilitation and recovery time, so the time out of my business ended up being 2 to 3 times as long and as disruptive. I would have been better just sorting it out earlier, listening to those signs. And of course, we rely on there being a second or third warning sign. For some people, the breakdown when it comes is so severe, they may not make it. If you ignore the early warning signs, you may not get another one. When I was 15, my dad went to work one day and never came home. He had a heart attack, doing a job someone else had not done. He was the chief safety officer in the dockyard in Plymouth, and he died on the job because he just kept going. He kept putting work and everyone else ahead of his health needs. They could be sorted later, or so he thought, but there was no later. On July the 17th, 1981, he dropped dead at work. He was 56. He never got to see his kids graduate or get married. He never met his grandchildren. The choices we make today when we're well, or showing early signs of being unwell, will determine if this could be us. If we don't take this seriously now, while we still have the choice and a chance to influence things, we may find ourselves beyond repair. Having a car calendar with advertising for services, oil changes, best quality fuel, it's not going to make one iota of difference for your car if the car is sat in the garage going rusty. Having a bowl of fruit on reception that you walk past, or having the opportunity to join a gym or seek EAP counselling, knowing what you could be doing even, it's also pretty ineffective at ensuring you'll stay safe and well over time. Having the options in place are great, but if you don't use them, and if you don't prioritize your own well-being, they're worthless. You have to take action. But it doesn't start with taking action. There are some steps before that. Maybe the reason you haven't yet done things for your own well-being is because you tried to jump into a plan too far down the road. The first step is being aware. Be aware of how you and your body are doing. There are many warning signs on the road to breakdown or burnout, for example, this graph, and we can sometimes choose to ignore them. Take time out to listen to your body and get checked out. You'll only hear that still small voice within if you find quietness and stillness. Whether it's meditation, mindfulness, floating, breathing, yoga, relaxation, choose any one way to create stillness and commit to doing so every day, so you can really check in with your body and commit to take action on anything you notice that's not right. This requires you to set an intention, and for you to take action on that intention, you have to want it enough. Get connected to your heart and assess your values. If your health and well-being are not in your top 5 values, you're unlikely to be motivated to do anything about it. It just remains a nice idea. Find an NLP and mBraining coach who can help you to elicit your values and then connect with your heart and motivation to find out whether well-being is truly important to you. And if it's not, do some work to change that. Once it is genuinely important, then create a plan. Now let's be realistic. We have to make it doable. There's no point saying that tomorrow you'll run a marathon next weekend. There's no point in the middle of winter in the UK saying you'll do a swim every day in the sea. So create a realistic plan. Take small steps first, maybe just a 20-minute walk round the block or walking up the stairs rather than taking a lift. Maybe it's having a salad instead of KFC for lunch. Small steps can really make a huge difference over time. And make the plan accountable in some way to your coach, to your partner. Even better, find someone to do it with you so you can encourage each other, and put that plan somewhere where you can't miss it. Have some consequences for when you don't do it, not as an excuse to beat yourself up, but really to make sure that you do it, and have place in rewards for when you do follow the plan and do well. And then take action. Don't wait till you feel like it. Don't wait until you're excited enough. That day will never come. It will always be tomorrow or next week. Just start. Willpower's great, but it runs out. Use that willpower for the first few, forcing through to make it happen until you start to create a new habit, a new neural pathway. Because once that habit's in place, it becomes way easier and it almost just drives itself. Find yourself a why that is so important that you just can't wait to get out there and get started. As Nike says, just do it. Muhammad Ali is famous for saying, "I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit, suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." You may not want to be a world champion boxer, but what is it you want enough to do whatever it takes to stay well? Is it about seeing your kids grow up, seeing them get married and have babies of their own, seeing your business thrive, maybe visiting a particular place in the world? Find a why that is so big and so compelling that nothing will stop you taking action, even and especially when you don't feel like it day after day. And then regularly review and amend your plan to keep it effective for where you're at, that it reflects the conditions around you and anything that might have changed along the way. Keep it fresh, change your activities to keep you interested. And if something's not working, change it. Do something else. Anything else. I had 20 minutes to talk to you about health and well-being, about managing stress and anxiety in business. If I could leave one message with you today, it's that stress and anxiety left untreated leads to organ system distress and failure. If I had longer, I'd talk to you about the new field of mBraining, an applied neuroscience that coaches to head, to heart, and to gut, the autonomic nervous system, and the pelvic brains. It's the most powerful set of techniques I've found for reconnecting to self, finding out what's truly important, and then taking action to make a change. I talked to you about havening, a psychosensory touch therapy that uses neuroscience to unhook emotional trauma and distress. I'd encourage you to explore different forms of mindfulness to enable you to find even just 5 or 10 minutes of stillness a day to give your body a true rest. Whether it's through breathing, an auditory prompt, or a visual cue, get creative and find a way that works well for you. I'd talk to you about health, nutrition, exercise, and encourage you to seek professional help to set up good routines that build your body up from the inside out. I'd talk to you about what GPS and guidance system you're using for your life. And I'd talk to you about self-compassion, kindness, and connection to yourself and to others. We were born and we're wired to be in community, to do life with others, fully present, fully connected. In fact, the latest research shows that connection is a bigger marker for health than diet or smoking. For each of those, I would urge you to consider how you build them into your own personal life and how you build them into the workplace. We could talk about challenge and stimulation, service and giving back, purpose and meaning. Well-being is a complicated system of components underpinned by science that is so much more than a bowl of fruit at work or the offer of a gym membership. Well-being, in fact, is an outcomes-based model, not an input model. It's fundamentally about how you feel, whether you feel like you have well-being. Now, of course, what actions you take impact on that hugely, but you have to determine if what you're doing now is working, and if it isn't, to do something different for yourself. And that puts enormous responsibility on your shoulders to start with awareness, right through to taking action exactly when you need it. There's a great quote that says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If you're getting signs that you should take action and you just keep going, you know what the potential outcome can be. Your well-being, your taking back control of stress and anxiety starts with a choice, a decision, an intention. Please make that decision today. No one else can do it for you, and you need to be there to make sure your business keeps thriving. Let me leave you with this report. The Independent newspaper this week published a report saying that there's been a 6% increase in people asking for sick notes related to mental health during lockdown in the UK. The report predicts that 8.5 million adults and 1.5 million children in England alone will need support for depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorders, and other mental health difficulties in the coming months and years. That's equivalent to 20% of all adults and 15% of children. Many of those are going to be in your workplace, your colleagues, or your family. They called this an extraordinary time. That's one word for it. If you want to avoid being a statistic, if you want to avoid finding yourself on the scrap heap, you have to do something about it. So please do something now, today. We've created a free stress first aid kit, which you can download from our website, which has some of our favorite tools for managing stress. And of course, you can contact us directly if we can serve you in any way, shape, or form. Thank you so much for listening, and please stay well and look after yourself. Make yourself a priority. Don't wait till you break down.